There we go. Okay, I think we are in fact live. So, Bob, you've got a little button on your bottom right that says jump in webinar for everybody. Sorry for the short delay. Hopefully everybody is having a wonderful day. And I want to tell you, we're going to be joined here in a minute by Bob Dunn and by Jeff Smith. And so, what we want to do here is make sure that nobody at all gets in or out of this thing without having all your questions answered. So, don't be shy. Let me get started here as those some of our other staff are logging in, and let me make sure I can get where you can see this. Hopefully, hopefully you are in good shape with that. But I want to get started here with a little bit of background, and then we'll kind of go from there. What and give me a second. We seem to be on the wrong page a little bit. There we go. Um, But anyway, I want to start with a little bit of background and just give you a little bit of a sense of who we are and what we are. Now, my apologies. I see a lot of familiar names, so I know a lot of you do know something about me and about our organization. But for those who don't, let me give you a little bit of a background. Many long years ago now, I grew up in the Junery Institute, originally in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I ended up working my way through Georgetown, running a branch for the Junri Institute with Grandmaster Junri, who was generally regarded as the father of American Taekwondo, and with Jeff Smith, who was the world light heavyweight kickboxing champion, and with Nick Kokinas, who broadly known founded Educational Funding Company, which was originally an internal arm of the Junri Institute to collect billing. And when I graduated from Georgetown University with a degree in economics, I ended up moving to Washington, from Washington, D.C. to Denver. And I ended up opening five schools in 18 months, six schools in 30 months, and ended up in today's terms, by the time I was 25 years old, at about $5 million in revenue. And luckily, just as I was in the middle of that enrollment explosion, there was this little movie called Karate Kid that happened to come out. What so begin with just with my background. I've operated martial arts schools in the Denver metro area since 1983. Have generated well over 100 million in revenue for my own schools, and have spent over 10 million, probably 15 million in advertising in the Denver metro market over the years. Several infomercials, TV spots, newspaper ads, one thing or another. Um, and during that time, I operated one of the biggest martial arts tournaments in the country, the Mile High Karate Classic. It was a NASCA World Tour event for 10 years. I was on the Educational Funding Company board of directors. Um, Later on, ended up doing coaching and consulting, starting with marketing, teaching people how to market on the internet as early as 1999, back when it was Alta Vista and Yahoo and so forth. Um, but from there have evolved into writing several books on martial arts school operations. Have been the behind the scenes, the hidden coach and consultant to some of the very top martial arts schools in the world: MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Taekwondo, everything in between. So, working with some of the very top schools in the world. Um, and then to expand from that, our team. We probably will be joined today by Bob Dunn and Jeff Smith. But um, we have some of the top people in the world. I mentioned Jeff Smith's name a minute ago. He has the distinction of having been the fighter who had the most views of any fight in the world. He was on the Muhammad Ali Frazier card, Frazier undercard, back when Don King had decided he wanted to run a kickboxing organization as well as be promoting boxing. He won the heavyweight title in that fight, and he was the PKA light heavyweight champion. But his distinction, really, among all the competitors I know, probably the only one that I know who had that level of success, is really at the same time he was running a branch for the Junri Institute, then he was running the entire organization as general manager head instructor and then vice president of that organization before starting his own chain of schools. World champion Jeff Smith, karate. Anybody who's known him for many years knows him as much for being a world-class fighter as they do for him being a world-class school operator. Uh, but Jeff Smith is a key part of our team, as is Senior Master Moody, who's one of the top operators in the ATA. Previously ran 8 ATA locations in Phoenix and across into California. And then you'll be meeting Bob Dunn and Lee Meltier is our millionaire smarts coach, and then Merrick Ahura is our tech guy behind the scenes that keeps us up to date on all the technology. But again, I gave you quite a bit of information about Jeff Smith, but he's one of the few who crossed over and really has been one of the top coaches internationally on teaching some of the world championship teams. World champion competitor himself in multiple arenas, point fighting, full contact as a light heavyweight, and then as a heavyweight, and is also one of the top school owners in the history of North America. So there's a little bit of his background. And there's a little bit of Greg Moody's background, and you can see he's got quite the academic credentials as well as the martial arts credentials. Now, before moving any further along, I just want to make it clear that this stuff works. What we're doing here, and I'm going to stop for just a second to make sure our Jeff Smith and Bob Dunn get into the panel here. And again, there's a Q&A and there's a chat function here. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to jump into the Q&A and do that, and we'll see if they manage to join us here in half a second. But again, let's go back, and there he is. There is Master Smith.
Bob's in the waiting room there. He's trying to get on too.
Yep. Okay. Well, Master Smith, we were just kind of in the middle of getting everybody some background on what we do and how we do it here. So
yeah, I was listening. I just couldn't. It had me backstage, so it was waiting for me to get on. But I heard all your stuff you were saying.
Okay. Well, good.
Good.
So moving right along. Matt Smith, I think I put the graphic in here later, but I'm kind of bad about talking about the bozo explosion in the industry. But just to give everybody a little bit of a sense, I mean, this stuff works. We have here's Jan Lappin with the Porsche 911. I forget if that was a C2 or a C4 convertible that she bought just as she was retiring. And here's many of our other members who are sharing what their month-to-date numbers were. But we have any number of schools now who are in the $1 million plus. Here is Krista Wells. She's in Seattle. They were really having a hard time surviving coming out of COVID, and now they're what did they do, Master Smith? 1.1 million last year, and probably will be on track for 1.5 or 1.2 million this year, up from about 30,000 a month. Here's a couple of others. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu School in Houston, Scott and Brandy. This thing says 100 a month. They're actually been at about 120 the last couple of months. Here's Riley Fife in Ontario, Canada. He started with us not long ago, doing about 6,000 a month. Now he's in the mid 50s.
There's a little delay there, Master Oliver. It's right now showing Krista. Okay, now here's Riley and Scott. Okay, it caught up.
Okay. So it's I've got it showing one page behind, in other words. So and then we have Ben Brown and Tim Harrison, and Ben went from 16,000 to over 70,000 a month. I think he's been in the 80s recently. Is that about right, Master Smith?
Yeah, I think you're about right.
And, here's Tim Harrison. When he started with us, he was in the high teens to low 20s. He's now consistently around $100,000 a month. He's in Joliet, Illinois. Illinois. Ben is in California, Santa Rosa, California. So just to give you an example, here's another example, Stephen D. Castillo, a Krav Maga school in Florida. And I sent Matt Smith, everybody who's on here, hopefully got a little video that I sent that was from our yesterday's meeting with him talking about the growth and what he had accomplished uh, with working with us and so forth. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that video that I sent out yesterday, I think it'll be enlightening. Here's some others. What we have a tendency to do is post some of the stuff that was just floating around in our formerly our Facebook discussion group. There was Scott Sullivan, did 60 enrollments in what was that, 2 or 3 weeks, 94,000 gross in June. That same summer, they may have something else in here from that. They did over 100 enrollments in 4 or 5 weeks in July that same summer. Um, Here's well, that's Ben. I mentioned Ben already. Here's another one of our members, 316 leads, 225 appointments in a weekend. Here's another member.
And do realize you're on a lag time here, Master
Yeah.
Oliver. So while you're talking about the next one, the old one is still up there.
Yep. Yep.
Now Kelly is showing,
Yep.
so you might have caught up.
Well, that is strange. So I think we may be learning that I'm not great at using PowerPoint with a webinar, but that's okay. Um, so moving right along here, we'll start talking about Karate Kid marketing because that's why everybody joined. But I just wanted to give everybody the clue here. There's an awful lot in the industry of what we refer to as the bozo explosion. A lot of folks running around claiming to be great at what they do and claiming that they can help you grow themselves. Master Smith, my joke is I got started in doing coaching and consulting. It really isn't a joke because it's what in fact happened. But I got started in coaching and consulting to rescue a bunch of people who had been almost put out of business by one of those folks who, frankly, has resurfaced more recently. But there are a lot of people running around in the industry who are good at one thing, who claim to be good at all things. We see a lot of people who ran a school perhaps pretty effectively themselves, but their success wasn't replicatable. It's not something that they can really push forward and share with other people. The other element I see oftentimes is, you have agency types and so forth where they have a couple of people they hired in the Philippines to run your Facebook ads, but as far as their actual advice on how to consistently fill your school and how to create a high level of net profit with high quality students, they tend not to be very good with many folks who are just going to get you in trouble across the industry.
How are you handling the Q&A? Because I noticed there was a question someone had. I didn't know if you were going to save that at the end or you were.
Yeah, let's if I'll assign you and Bob to read those. And so, what was the question?
Well, I don't know now because it disappeared. I have to open it. It's
Oh,
right.
okay. I'll assign you and Bob to
Do you
read
see that?
whatever questions and Q&A there are. And
Okay. It looked like it was Ben Donhauer.
okay,
I guess he was just making a statement. He said, not a lag for me. So
not what?
not a lag for me. So that was earlier in the meeting that popped up. So I think you said something about maybe when you were talking about there was a lag here or there, but I
Okay.
guess he was
Okay.
making it.
Well, let's anybody has any questions, jump in on the Q&A or the chat. Bob and Jeff, I'm not going to pay attention to them, so I'll let you you take a look at it. But before we go any further, I mean, make sure you take notes, figure out what you want to ask, anything that we say that isn't clear. We do have limited time, and I'll freely admit we're going to cover way too much ground. But take a note of Bob Dunn here, who's with us in the white shirt. Bob's our national director. Take a note of his phone number and take a note of martialartswealth.com/Karate Kid. I'll talk to you about that a little bit later here. But feel free to chip in with any questions and any thoughts you have as we go. What we're going to do is start with some key marketing principles and key overview. I kind of titled it Myths and Realities in 2025. We're ahead of almost everybody in the industry when it comes to CRMs, AI implementation, follow-up systems, how to convert online leads to enrollments, how to convert offline leads to enrollments, uh, multi-channel follow-up, social media, etc. But there's an awful lot of mythology that goes on. And what part of the mythology I see is people try to sell you new bright shining objects that sometimes are not quite ready for prime time and oftentimes are perhaps never going to be particularly useful. So we'll share with you what's working and what's not working, but did want to point that out. And let's start with some key marketing principles and skip to point number two is it's extremely important for you to really sit down and know what your average student is worth long time in your program. And Matt Smith and Mr. Dunn, one of the things that we do best with our schools, and I mean, there's an awful lot, but we tend to solve their marketing problems, create a huge flow of traffic for them, solve their sales problems, help get their conversion rate up to a very high level. Smaller schools who have a slow trickle of leads may not have a sales problem until they quadruple their volume, and then they find out they do have a sales problem. So we always try to fix that first. And then look at pricing, program structure, and renewal process as well as retention. And so if you have a really solid retention, a really high quality program, the tuition process is in the right place and structures in the right place, what we're finding our top schools are trending towards is about $9,000 lifetime value per student. So for every new student that they're going to bring in, they'll trend towards $9,000 in value. So one of those schools can do 10 enrollments a month and gross 90,000 a month. Even if they're a little bit below that, they're doing, worst case, 20 students a month would be $1.5 million school and trending towards a $2 million a year school. So keep that number in mind. And even if your number is significantly below that, and that teaches you something that needs to be fixed, keep in mind what the lifetime value is of a new student coming in. And it does impact the way you do your marketing.
And it
Um,
it might help, Master Oliver, if you explain how you get that average, because I think there is quite a few different formulas that people use or misuse on how to track that. So
sure.
maybe you could give them, and then they could format theirs to see how
Well,
that.
yeah, in practical terms, what we're talking about is the total amount of money that a student is likely to spend on average in your school, right? So one formula for that is just how many enrollments did you do and divide that into what your total gross revenue was for the last calendar year, and that gives you a pretty good approximation.
And
Um,
even monthly is real helpful,
you
uh,
bet, you bet.
because that helps you focus on your marketing expenses, how you make.
Exactly. 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 Um, but the keys, a couple of keys here are marketing in a vacuum, and the problem with, say, Google keywords and getting Google pay per click and waiting for search traffic is that's the place where people are finding you and everybody else, right? The advantage of marketing in a vacuum is you're getting to people before they were thinking about doing martial arts, and you're getting to people without them comparing you to anybody else. Um, the third key is long-term student.
Can you explain to because a lot of the terminology we use, I don't think everybody's familiar with. Maybe you could define a little clearer
Sure, sure.
marketing in the
Yeah,
vacuum.
we can come back to some of that if we have time as well. Um, yeah, and then the next key there is long-term student retention and quality. And again, Bob, would you say it's true that everybody we talk to thinks they have, great students or students love them and that's not their problem if they could just get more students? But
Uh, yeah, retention's fantastic.
yeah, that's what they think. But in reality, most schools are dropping out twice or even three times as many people as they probably should, and don't have a process in place really to fix that. Um, but moving along, so we have plenty of time. And Matt Smith, take a note. We can come back to those those points and some of those questions here as we go. When it comes to marketing, the only way to really assure your long-term success, in my view, is what we would call marketing, the marketing Parthenon. So that's literally a graphic of the Parthenon in Greece, or if you've never been there, Nashville has a full-size replica. But the idea is we want to have 15 or 20 things going on every month to generate new students, knowing that some of them are going to be huge home runs. We might do one promotion with Karate Kid and generate 100 students just from that one thing. But we don't want that to be the only thing we're doing. And with all of our marketing, we want to be combining search marketing, uh, other online marketing with all the social media opportunities and so forth, combining that with community outreach marketing opportunities and combining that with internal and combining that with appropriate advertising and direct mail opportunities otherwise. So,
And just to clarify that too, Master Oliver, a lot of people think Parthenon, oh yeah, I did all those things over the year, but they spread them all out. What you're talking about is every month you'd have to have a Parthenon.
you bet. You bet. Yeah, every month we want to have 20 things going on, right? So we don't want to have one or two things going on this month. And um, even Matt Smith, our mentor, back at educational funding days, he had a principle which was 515 on the 15th of the month. Pick out five things you're going to do in the next month to promote your school. I would argue that in today's climate, that's only about a quarter of what you need to be doing, right? So, by uh, the before the quarter, figure out what 20 things you're doing every month. And generally, Matt Smith, the way you've um, thought of it, and I would agree with you, is, you know, look at it as a third of your traffic is coming from online sources, a third of your traffic is coming from internal referrals, and a third of your new student traffic is coming from external community outreach events. Uh, but if you find all of your traffic is coming from Facebook ads, or all of your traffic is coming from Google ads, that's not a good solid operation. It's going to leave a lot of problems long term. And if you find that all you're doing is internal referral marketing, um, for most schools, that's not enough to grow as fast as they want to grow. But even if it is enough to grow as fast as you want to grow, that doesn't do much for really developing your reputation in the community, making you a pillar in the local elementary schools, local companies, et cetera. So you really want to be out there and in the market in a lot of different ways. Um, this was a quote from the president of Harvard. If you think education is experience, try ignorance. And Matt Smith, what I think you would agree, Bob, you certainly agree, is we see an awful lot of martial artists who spend a ton of time and effort and money educating themselves in their martial art, and they become truly a master of their techniques, their knowledge, their style, their background, one thing or another. But they never really master how to get new students into the school, master how to manage their school properly, manage the tuition structure and process, manage the sales processes, and all of those. It's harder to get your black belt, frankly, in school operations than it is to get your black belt in Taekwondo or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's more complicated. There's more to learn, and certainly as you grow and you're hiring people, you're doing development and so forth. So if there was anything that I could get a martial arts school owner to take away from this is no matter how skilled an athlete you are, that's inadequate to grow your school. No matter how great an instructor you are, that's inadequate to grow your school. And by the way, the measure of being a great instructor is student retention, follow through to black belt, and physical quality. It's not that you create a few high talented people, it's that pretty much everybody you touch is with you long term. But you have to invest in marketing knowledge, not just advocate to somebody to buy ads for you, but you got to invest in marketing knowledge so you know how to make it work yourself. You've got to invest in the knowledge to learn how to do the effective intro and sales process at volume. You've got to invest in the knowledge ultimately to learn how to manage people within your employee and get them to replicate what you're doing. And ultimately, if you want a really big school, or if you want multiple schools, you've got to manage multiple employees. Matt Smith, you and I at one time, you and your schools and Junior Institute and me and my schools, we were managing well over 100 people to get them to do what we were trying to do in our organization. So you've got to invest in yourself in that way.
Yeah, and not to misunderstand that we're not saying that you're going to sacrifice 1 ounce of quality of instruction. You still want to make the best students they can be. You want them to be the best version of themselves, but you don't have to sacrifice that to grow the school in both active count and total gross.
Yeah. Well, if anything, all of our schools have dramatically improved the quality of their brown and black belts and improved the numbers of brown and black belts, improved the number of people who get there. So the thing is, it's a, there's the McDojo mythology that goes around the industry that people who are making money are somehow watering things down. Nobody that we're working with is watering anything down. In fact, we keep adding to the level of requirements in order to get through year 2, year 3, year 4 into black belt and beyond. So it's never watering it down, but you do have to really invest and learn how to be a good mentor, a good facilitator, but also then how to get out into the community and develop the number of people that you want to know about your school. Um, the Maybe I'll go next into this is, when we're talking about the Parthenon, we're talking about all the different aspects. So being really good at getting publicity in your area, being on TV, being in the newspapers to whatever extent they are, getting online publicity, et cetera. Guerrilla marketing, getting out into the community with all kinds of different low-cost ways to generate reach, community outreach. And usually when I'm talking about community outreach, I'm talking about directly into elementary schools, directly into big employers, directly into organizations in your area, as well as directly into events and opportunities to get in front of large numbers of people. Tying in online marketing with direct mail, with email, with all the different follow-up systems, and getting really good at referral systems. Most of the times when we talk to small schools, they'll say to us, well, almost all of my enrollments come from word of mouth. But then you say, well, what referral systems are you using to generate traffic? And they don't know what you're talking about. What we're talking about is specific events, activities, methodologies to get a bunch of your students to bring 1 or 2 friends each in any given month, or to get one student to bring 20 or 30 of their friends. Here's another little kind of graphic is some of these references are dated, but newspaper ads, direct mail, newspaper inserts, television infomercials, birthday parties, holiday event, movie promotions, which is what we're going to talk about a lot more today, testing, graduation, referral activities, buddy days, and so forth, bandit signs, pay-per-click, etc. Yeah, you just want to make sure you're building all the different things you can do online, all the things you can do outreach in the community, the things you can do internally. Um, Let me give you a little background.
One more thing, Mr. Oliver, just so we don't get behind on these. Michael Rowe was just asking, he was trying to decide how intense his note taking needs to be.
Yeah, his original question, sir, was whether there would be a recording of this.
Probably not. We shall
Okay.
see. Yeah. So, take notes. But let me give you a longer term background. Matt Smith, this is more your era than my era, but when I was working my way through college at Ginry Institute, I heard stories about, and our instructor, Grandmaster Jun Wee, was good friends with Bruce Lee. Master Smith, you interacted, worked out with, and got prodded on to world championship status by Bruce Lee. But one of the stories I had heard about was all the stuff the Ginry Institute had done in conjunction with Enter the Dragon when it came out, to tell you how far back this goes. And so when I moved to Denver and I was in the middle of opening 5 schools in 18 months, 6 schools in 30 months, I already said a minute ago, I was doing about 5 million in today's dollars by the time I was 25 years old. I saw a movie being released, and Master Smith, you corrupted me into going to all of the movies, the good ones and the bad ones. But kind of right in the middle of that, June of 1984 would have been right about the time I was opening my 3rd location. And I saw there was this movie coming out called Karate Kid. Now, Some of you, probably most of you, aren't old enough to remember that, but nobody knew that Karate Kid was going to be a hit. And in fact, it was a kind of a sleeper. And you know, if you look at that marquee, there were some pretty big movies uh, playing out around the same time. But um, you know, I managed to see an early preview screening of it and immediately said, wow, this is going to be great for business. I hope it does well. But at the very least, everybody who sees it is going to be super excited, you know, to do martial arts in one thing or another. So by the opening weekend of Karate Kid, and I'll give you an example, is here's some of the things that in Karate Kid 1 and then Karate Kid 2 that I had managed to do in the theaters. We had movie posters up in all the movie poster holders that were an ad for my schools that said, you know, bring your pass from a movie theater in for I think it was a 2-week free offer at the time. We had booths in all the theaters where we were collecting leads and later figured out we could make appointments on the spot and then started making appointments on the spot. We had all the theater employees wearing martial arts uniforms. So we had all the people at the cashier, everything from the person selling tickets to the concession stand wearing martial arts uniforms. We even did demos in the theaters before the movie started, although I wouldn't do that again. Uh, we had, when you bought a ticket, you received a free 1 month pass to Mile High Karate and a free uniform and a really nice printed pass that when they bought the physical ticket, they were given the pass. And of course, nowadays you buy it on Fandango and scan your phone in the door. And we had banners and posters up on the walls of the theaters. And this is before they had video ads before the movies. They had we had slides on the screen directing them out to the booth that we had in the lobby, and as well as having an introductory offer. And I'm probably missing a few things. Um, we also go ahead.
If I could just jump in real quick too, I don't want anybody to think that you were able to do that then, because we have members, or a member actually, that is in a movie theater coming up and he's sharing uniforms with all of their employees.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. You're jumping ahead of me, Bob. But yes,
oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, we'll get to present day here. But yeah, we've got a couple of schools. Master Smith, one of them, you had suggested they do it. Has already talked to theater managers into 2 theaters to wear their uniform and do a bunch of these things coming up next month. Um, but um, external to the school, when this was happening, it became a great foot in the door to our local elementary schools, themed with the theme of what was going on. It became a great foot in the door with co-op advertising. So I actually did, and of course the advertising format has changed now. You don't go to the movie listings on the newspaper to figure out what to see. But we did half-page ads with Karate Kid, and half the ad was Mile High Karate, half the ad was Karate Kid, tying into it. Later, when Chuck Norris's movie Sidekicks came out, we did the same thing, and with a number of other movies. Um, we used it as a reason to get newspaper articles about our Karate Kids. We used it as an excuse to get our kids on local radio shows where they were talking about it. We even got a couple of local TV news and TV talk shows where we got kids on it. In other words, we used it as an excuse in all the media available at the time. And of course, now the media that you're looking for isn't just the ones I mentioned, or you know, the co-opting newspaper ads probably wouldn't be very functional. But it's also all the online media. But we used it as a tie-in everywhere you can think about it, and it helped push me from 400 students to over 3,500 students in about 18 months back then. Um, but since then, we've done that over and over and over again. And Bob, you were talking about some of what we have coming up for the next Karate Kid. But let's go through Master Smith. Your school in Sterling, I think the number was 157 enrollments that you did tied to the last Karate Kid movie, the one that was starring Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith. And that was
And just for, FYI, the those 8 weeks we ended up with over 1,200 appointments, and out of those we had about 500 show up for the intros. So that was our first experience of really learning how to drink from a fire hose. And I will say we dropped the ball on it because we learned to get better as the events went on. where you get a better conversion rate, but still 157 is 157 if it was a 5% conversion.
Oh yeah. Well, and you know, if you had been prepped ahead of time and massively staffed up, it would have been probably 250, 300 enrollments from that same flow. And that comes back to the point I made earlier. And you know, you're a shop operator, been doing this forever, but didn't expect that volume of drinking from a fire hose. But small schools who are used to, they get a couple of new students a
And
week.
just to clarify, I'm sorry, Master,
Yeah.
just to clarify what drinking from a fire hose means, that we had not that we couldn't handle the flow at the spin wheel or make the appointments. It was being able to teach all those intros that we were getting.
Mhm.
You know, when you had 500 or 600 intros in an 8-week period, you know, how the hell do you fit those in? You know,
Yeah.
we were having to have four classes just for intros, and some of them were 10 or 15 in the class, and this was just for intros. So luckily that was during the summer, so people were out of school, so we could do a lot during the daytime. We would
Yeah.
put the adults or working or people that couldn't bring the kids in the evening, but the ones, most of them, we could get them in the daytime.
Yeah, and I gave just a couple other examples. I said Dallas. So this is Rick Petito in Dallas, did 850 leads. I didn't list the rest of the conversion rates there, but he did 850 leads in 2 weekends with a movie promotion we were doing. Ken Gibson, and actually the number was 350 um, uh, um, over 2 weekends with one of the movie theater promotions, and um, um, Ryan and Yana Burtney. They did over 150 appointments with Mario Brothers last fall. I think that was last fall. And so we could do example after example after example of what's working today in 2025. But before we go on, I'm going to come back to this. But you know, here's the failure mechanism. You know, Zig Ziglar used to call it a loser's limp. We hear all the time school owners say, "Well, I've tried that; it didn't work." Or you can't do that in my area, or you know, you don't understand my students, they would never blank. You know, the failure mechanism is, you know, you can't do that in my area. Well, with what we're talking about and all these things, we've done it in what, Master Smith, New Zealand, Australia, UK, Germany, Dubai, or um, um, Bahrain, I think is Bahrain. We've done it in all over Canada, from British Columbia to Ontario. We've done it all over the U.S., from Vermont, you know, to San Diego, Florida, etc. And just the examples I gave you there was suburban Washington D.C., Dallas, and New York City. But we've done it in Mankato, Minnesota, and Dodge City, Kansas, and all kinds of small towns on the you know, on the border of the Appalachians in Tennessee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, write this down. This will work. All the things that we're talking about will work in your area. It will work with your students, and it will work in your situation. And by the way, it'll work in your style. This has done great with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools, with MMA schools, with schools that target predominantly adults, with schools that target predominantly kids, with Shotokan, Taekwondo, Krav Maga. You know, the list is endless. But if you're tempted to say that won't work in my area, you know, there's no rich or poor, small or big area that we've dealt with schools that we haven't gotten these things to work. And if you're tempted to say that won't work with my audience, with my style, with what I'm doing, we've dealt with literally everything under the sun in the industry here. So this stuff
And just another question, Justin had a question, and I guess you pronounced the last name Revick. How many weekends were you at the theater just to premiere, or did you set up while the movie was playing for a few weeks? Which is a good point. We originally we had it set up for the weekend before the Karate Kid because we wanted to use it as a dress rehearsal, because we hadn't done that, you know, with the spin wheel and all that before. That was the first time we did the spin wheel, and and then that happened to be opening weekend for the Disney movie Shrek, and and we got as many almost as Shrek as we did the Karate Kid. But we already had the next weekend booked, and the next weekend was so successful, we booked it for 2 more weekends. But then we were trying to absorb it all in, so we just did it actually that summer 4 weekends.
Yeah. And you know, to be clear, there's any number of things that we're going to be teaching school owners to do that's going to be tied into Karate Kid and to the finale to some extent of Cobra Kai this spring as well. That isn't, you know, set up a booth in a movie theater. And by the way, the set up a booth in a theater or set up a booth at a live event, I keep hearing school owners that say, I tried that and it didn't work. You know, many of the consultants in the industry, who many of them are friends of mine, but they don't think this stuff works. You know, Matt Smith, Tim Dave Coer, I never could get them to do the movie theater thing because they always said it didn't work, but it works like a charm.
You
So
know how to
don't,
work it.
yeah, you've got to have the script. You've got to know the process. You want to know the methodology for getting people to visit the booth, the script for getting them to give you contact information, the script for making appointments on the spot, and then the follow-up system from the point at which they interact with you and make the appointment to get them to actually show up. That's again one of those CRMs tied to live humans, system script, follow-up process to get them into the school, and then the process to convert them at a high level. And we can certainly teach you all of that. We're not going to have time to get into all the details today, but we can certainly go through all that. But again, as you said, Master Smith, we were talking about this yesterday. Anybody who wants to, you know, keep training with us a little bit on this stuff, we did 45 minutes yesterday with Stephen D. Castillo, walking through all the things that we're going to set up for him. And he's in two movie theaters there in the Tampa area with his Krav Maga school. And as we were just talking about, uniforms on the people, the booth. He's got a video going before the movie, driving them out to the booth, and any number of other things. But again, it's not just going to be that. It's going to be tying into your social media, organic and paid, tying into your search. It's going to be important to be good on Google if this does spike, like I hope and think it will. Interest and traffic, you want to be tied into that. Tying into local elementary, middle schools, even local area businesses for the adult market, tying into live event marketing over the holidays, publicity, and so forth. So, what you want to be set to do and prepared to do is really hit the ground running on all of these things. Good. So let's moving along. You were talking about the price wheel thing and so forth, but the you know, these are some of the aspects is all of the live event marketing and the different aspects to tie it all in. And again, we have artwork for this stuff. We have the scripts for how you know, how to get the booth to work. You know, the thing that we found is one of the key drivers is the price wheel. I think this was our Westminster school set up at a little event. Oh yeah, that was actually a Halloween event where they made this picture here, where they made 115 appointments. Remember this one, Matt Smith? That's Cassie and her little team there.
And,
But
and to learn, you know, people sometimes think this is just flip a switch and the flood comes in. It's learning how to do all of this different marketing. You know, it's like martial arts. You don't just go in and in 6 weeks or 12 weeks you've got all of it down. You know, you have different levels on your way that you get better, and the more you do these events and you learn the finer details of it, but there's so much of it to learn. But that's why when you do so much, even at a low efficiency, you still get a high return rate. But as your efficiency gets better, then you even need less leads to get more enrollments
yeah,
because your
absolutely.
conversion percentages are better. So you
Yeah.
either have to have a lot of leads or you have to have a real good percentage rate to get the amount of enrollments you want to get this month.
Yeah, here was Colby in Mankato, Minnesota, out in the sticks. generating traffic with the same type of format.
And that's a typical look of the booth, but he was standing behind it, which we never recommend. He was just doing
Oh,
that
yeah.
for the picture so you could see the front of the booth completely. You always want to be out in front of it, but you want to have it decorated like that, have that spin wheel there. He had that big pop-up banner in the back, you know, the inflatable.
But one of the things we'll be teaching everybody is what we've come to call guerrilla marketing. Matt Smith, one of the pieces we have it as part of what we call the Complete Failure School program. But we have a 3-hour live session recording of you going through 54 individual things that you can do. They're all very inexpensive. Some are a little time intensive. Most of them are not. That are the things that we would consider guerrilla marketing, and especially with a high profile event like this Karate Kid thing coming up, it gives me a marvelous excuse for flyers to be going in all the bags of all the McDonald's in the area at the drive-through, for tray liners, for Chick-fil-A, Burger King, all of the fast food places, for Papa John's, Pizza Hut, Domino's, all the pizza places to have flyers tied into all this stuff going out on top of the pizza boxes, for me to have rack cards and or lead boxes out at 300 or 400 merchants in my immediate area. It gives me the rationale to have the balloon and the banner on the school and the big blow up kicker guy in front of the school and A-frame signs out on the sidewalk and the blow in the wind blow up guys out on the street, and bandit signs up and down the area, and 11 by 17 posters that are in the windows of merchants in the area, and perhaps on street street signs and phone poles, etc. It gives an excuse to throw everything up against the wall and have it all work, but hit all of this different types of guerrilla marketing, some of which marketing terms we host Parasite, you can end up with an incredible amount of traffic with what we used to call the Children's Hospital promotion. We were printing flyers at a clip of 100,000 a piece and getting them all distributed directly through the local elementary schools, as one example, or printing 100,000 flyers at a time and getting them distributed through daycares, schools, etc., or thousands and thousands going out on pizza boxes and in the restaurants and so forth. And this is an opportunity. What happens in May and June is a perfect opportunity to generate new enrollments. April, May, June are some of the busiest months of the year, and believe it or not, for most people on the meeting here, but we've had July and August be some of our busiest enrollments months. Matt Smith, I mentioned earlier, Brandy and Scott in Houston, they did I think well over 100 enrollments in 6 weeks in July and bleeding into early. No, it was 112 enrollments in about 5 weeks from second week in July through the first week in August last year.
Yeah, in those videos, we call it grassroots marketing. And the reason we call it that is because it's a low cost, but it's a little more labor intensive. And that's what happens with a lot of new members or people that don't have much, don't have the gross yet to put more money in advertising. They've got to put the time, because nothing's free. So it's either going to cost you time or it's going to cost you money. And you just got to learn how to do those 50 or 60 things and then start implementing it.
Yeah, next thing is publicity, and we've talked a little bit about that. Master Smith, you and I were mentored by the best in the world in the martial arts field, and he was to some extent mentored by Muhammad Ali, who was probably the best in the world in any sports field at generating publicity and buzz. But May and June is going to be a great time to get yourself on TV, in your local newspapers, in radio, in all kinds of online forums and so forth, and we can show you and teach you how to do that. But it's a great time because the buzz will be around Karate Kid and around martial arts in general as it stirs that up.
And you don't have to be a world champion or anything like that. It's other things that happen in the community that you can take advantage of that can highlight your school.
Yeah, in fact, Master Smith, God, name's escaping me right now. One of the top NASCA competitors, who's now a coach. He had posted online something about who was the youngest black belt ever, and I pulled up two big news stories. One news story was Philip Paley, You may remember that one. It's when Chuck Norris promoted this little kid to black belt, and it got massive publicity all over the country, including, and this is before he was a well-known actor. This is when Chuck Norris was just not just, but he was a multi-school
Cool.
operator in Southern California. It was on the Johnny Carson show. So first time Chuck Norris was on Johnny Carson was with this little black belt that they had just promoted, and they had the kid doing demonstrations and him doing demonstrations. And again, that was before any of his movies. It was purely generating publicity around that. And then the other one that I pulled up was Richard Dietrich, who I was his first instructor. Charlie and I were his first instructors, him and his brother Michael at Junery Institute, and he was very young when he got his black belt, and it made everything from People magazine to major network news stories and so forth. So there's lots of different ways to get publicity. That's one that just I was interacting with on social media yesterday. But usually we look for interesting human interest stories, and in this case, a great story would be your own Karate Kid internal to the school, and then revving up a story on that. Matt Smith, while I was teaching with Gil Cologne Jr., they revved him up with national publicity all over the place because he was a 15-year-old working a full-time job, running a martial arts school, but not really working a full-time job. But
Honor student.
honor student. Yep, yep. And ginned up a lot of publicity with Gil. That was a little jab at Gil from back in the day. But um, the other thing is,
And his dad worked for the president.
yep, worked in the Carter administration. Um, the um, 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 the next thing with this, as you said, is you start drinking from a fire hose. You've got to have good follow up that works, and we're masters at teaching people how to turn appointments into intros and how to turn leads into appointments. But um, there's all levels of stuff going on right now. There's all the AI tools that are coming up, but there's still, you need outbound live people on the phone. The AI voice systems are getting there. They're not quite there yet. You need text messaging. You need automated voicemail. You need online calendar reminders, email reminders, Facebook, and various social other media. There's not a hyphen there, but social media retargeting and so forth. But once you generate, if you generated 350 appointments in a weekend, be conservative, 75 appointments in a weekend, it gets overwhelming. And so we can show you the systems where you can tie in everything together. They automatically text and emails, but they automatically get mail, and we queue up all the different aspects to get a good conversion rate. And here's another example of all kinds of different live events and some examples of results and so forth. So I thought I'd pull that up before we get a little bit more thoroughly into some of this Karate Kid stuff. But let me pause for a second, and any and all questions ask in the chat there. There's the Q&A section and the chat section. Just post anything up. If you're watching this on your computer, you can QR code this to take you to this page. But I want to go through a little bit more information, but we want to make sure we get any and all questions answered. So the next thing I wanted to talk about here, and Master Smith, you were still a little under the weather, but when we were talking with Stephen D. Castillo, this is one of the things he said yesterday is we have a lot of members who have worked with basically everybody in the industry. And again, I kind of cast the broad brush of the bozo explosion, and it really isn't fair to some of them. There's a number of people who are doing coaching consulting in the industry who are friends of mine who do one or two things well. And that was the conversation. He had worked with a good friend of ours for many years before stumbling across us, and that had gotten him to about 30,000 a month on a plateau for many years, and was having trouble getting past that. And I asked him the question, well, what was the difference? Why is he now, 60, 70, 80, 90,000 a month, going to be $1 million school this year, when he probably never got above about 350,000 any given year? And his response was one that I've heard many, many, many times. He said to me, well, the difference was I was the biggest fish in the pond in that group. And now I'm one of the smallest fish in the pond, surrounded by a whole bunch of other schools who are doing much better than I am. So he says, number one, it reinforces the belief of what I'd like to accomplish as possible. Number two, it shows me what they're doing in order to accomplish it. And frankly, number three, I don't think he said it this way, but I'll say it kind of shames you into performance if people who are in no better location than you are, who are no smarter than you are, who have no more money than you do, at least going into it, are doing triple, quadruple, or five times the numbers that you're doing.
And
So that
our good friend Nick Kokina said, I always loved his analogy was a rising tide lifts all boats.
yep,
So when you're in this pool of everybody who's getting those higher numbers, these bottom people are going to move up a lot faster.
yep, that's right. Um, and yeah, he stole that from JFK. But it is a great quote. Um, but you always want to surround yourself with the top people. And again, if you worked with a whole bunch of other coaches, consultants, one thing or another, that's I think some of you may have seen the video on the way in. There's a video that Scott Sullivan did, talking about he was doing 25,000 a month and he thought he was hot shit, and he had worked with all of the top consultants in the industry in one thing or another, and that he found that he just didn't know what he didn't know. And last month they did, I think, 123,000 at their school. And by the way, it's it's not a 20,000 square foot mega, 100 staff members. It's 2,400 square feet, second floor of the shopping center, predominantly teaching kids Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So very highly profitable and manageable staff. In fact, they just trimmed down one of their staff members, and all their operations are improving. Um, but let me walk you through this. We've been going about an hour, and I've given you a really fairly thorough, high-level overview of some of the things that we can do and have done, but have had no opportunity whatsoever to get into the weeds. And I want to walk you through what it is we do with schools in order to really get them to master the key marketing elements. We're starting on Wednesday a 6-week blitz that's going to show you how to tie it into all the things right now that you can do with Karate Kid, all things tied into Karate Kid that you can do to fill your school. And the components really are several. One is one-on-one peer support. Um, I say you'll have at least 3 personal one-on-one meetings with Bob Dunn, myself, and Jeff Smith. But it's personal interactive support, and it's small group um, meetings by Zoom. And I don't mean a webinar format like this. I don't particularly like this. We just had a few too many people to do it as an open session. But with all of these, it's 5, 10, 15 people, all on video, all unmuted, asking whatever questions they want, getting clarification. And then we have an interactive discussion forum where we have a really solid marketing course that's going to take you through the steps, including what you were talking about, Master Smith, the all of the grassroots marketing efforts. I called it guerrilla marketing efforts, but publicity, all the different aspects of getting that. And that also then gives you peer support within the group, because you can ask questions in the forum or you can ask questions in the meetings. And if you're a $20,000 a month school, you'll have a school who's doing 120 a month, answering your question of how they got from where you are to where they are, or answering the question on how they just accomplished whatever specifically it was that they're doing right now. The conversations, by the way, that we have one school owner, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, who just tapped into his entire school district. He got the PTA supporting him for direct outreach into all of their schools and exactly how to have done that, how to do that. He can describe what you did, what he did to do that, and how it worked. But that peer interactive on the small Zoom meetings and in the interactive discussion forum, combined with the courses to support the marketing and the sales processes, are 2 of the key components. And the third key component, as I was just saying, is we do an open interactive Zoom meeting every week. It goes 60 to 90 minutes, but we never leave without every question answered. The recordings for that are available immediately with summaries. Again, all questions answered, anything we talk about that's a support tool, an additional course or program, a fill in the blank, editable artwork, and so forth. We share at that point. And then the three things that for anyone who wants to move forward with this with us, we're going to share our complete Fill Your School program. We used to sell that for $2,497. The Ambassador program, which is a high level referral system program, and then the Ultimate Referral Machine, which is a different but high level referral system. Um, so this is a combination, just an example of our discussion forum, and there's the Carlos talking about what he's been doing with the PTO and so forth. And obviously, we couldn't, show you all of that, but you get an idea. This was our meeting actually on Tuesday, and by the way, if I went through that meeting really quick, you have Jihai who went from 0 to 30,000 a month in Dallas in about 4 months. You have Jason Purcell in the light blue T-shirt who's in Seattle doing well over $100,000 a month now. You have Antonius who has
And GI was a brand new school, sir. Just and
yeah
because
that
I
was
know
that was a startup. Yeah,
exactly, yes, sir. And I know we've got a couple of startups on the webinar with us today. So just wanted
yeah.
to, you know,
Yeah, you have Team Took there in Houston, a very successful Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. Antonius Bittman, he has 3 locations, 3,500 students, 2 in Jersey and 1 in Texas. I talked about Krista before there in the glasses in Seattle, who's over 100,000 a month. Steve Semi, who's ramping up quickly in Minneapolis, St. Paul to top 100,000. Next to him, Tim
In
Harris.
person.
Tim Harrison in Joliet, Illinois. We talked about Tim before. But that's a pretty heavy hitter group right there. And I missed a couple. There's Mr. Burtney in the black shirt. They just moved their location. They're doing very, very well there in Detroit. But that 6-week program, to give you a little bit of an overview, um, we hit the A to Z about how to do the live events, A to Z about how to really fill your school with referrals, the A to Z about really how to fill your school with all the guerrilla marketing, aka grassroots marketing, the 54 things you can do, all the online marketing activity. And by the way, you do need to make sure your Google presence and your Google business page and your Yelp and Yahoo presence are in, not Yahoo, but your Yelp and Facebook presence are in good shape before this, because there will be a lot uptick in lead flow, and make sure that you're in good shape with all the social media. This is the program I mentioned before, that Fill Your School program, and we pictured it in the DVD, CD format. In reality, pretty much everybody has gone into streaming and downloading, so it's all 100% available digital, with everything that you would have seen physically here. But this does, Matt Smith, have the run the intro process, close the enrollment process, pricing, as well as it has all the different aspects of marketing as a single course. And of course, the 6-week that I talked about is live, interactive, real time, and fully interactive. There's these other 2 programs I was talking about. One is both of them are effective referral programs. Again, we showed you them in physical form, but they're all digital downloads. Here's Jason. He was. This is a not too long ago when he broke 80,000 a month. Um, what he's saying is he was purchased his school for 80,000, which was supposed to be the 3-year profit of the school, and he's doing more than 80,000 in a single month. Actually, he's broken over 100. This was a few months ago. Um, but he's doing all those type of things that we're telling you to do. Um, the main thing I want to go back to is return on investment. And Matt Smith, we were talking about that lifetime value. Is what we're looking at with schools is in the first 90 days, in general, they're going to receive $1,000 or $2,000 from a student right away with the initial tuition and the monthly tuition that they're paying. But over the lifetime, it's going to be, with the top schools we were just talking about, they're in the $8,000 to $9,000 range. And this program we're talking about with 6 weeks is designed to show you everything you need to know in May and June, maybe bleeding into July a little bit, to enroll 100 new students into your school. So if you extrapolate that out, it's worth in and of itself close to $1 million in additional revenue just from what we're going to teach you in the program. The question is, in honesty, for what the cost of the program is, you just have to add one student, and you'd have a 5 or 10 to 1 return on investment. But we're going to give you the tools to really dramatically ramp up your volume. So if you're at 50 students now, to get to 150, if you're at 400 students now, to top it off at 5 or 600 and really grow. Here was some feedback from a recent participant. He was talking about it as a massive paradigm shift, ton of motivation, and he was in the holidays. He was said holidays are normally scary, but now he was massively growing. But the overall return on investment on this thing should be, I mean, it's almost incalculable. I didn't. The price is only $9.97. So if you enroll one student, you got your money back times 4 or 5. But if you truly learn the skills to add 100 students quickly to your school, that's $1 million. Worst case, $500,000 in lifetime value from the program there. Matt Smith, what would you add for them about that program?
Well, the hardest thing for most of these martial arts school owners out there is that they've never had anybody to show them all of this stuff. They had an instructor who taught them how to be a good fighter, a good forms person, or a good weapons, or just teach good martial arts, with solid students. But most of the early masters were not masters at making money. They were masters at teaching this and barely making a living, most of them. And so we've really decided that the only way to be $1 million school is you've got to learn the business side of it. So we want you to be a black belt in business and a black belt in martial arts, both, not just one. And most schools, they're like a 5th degree black belt or better, but then their business training and skill, if you added in the hours that they put in that, they might be a yellow belt. So you really, this 6 weeks program, the real advantage of it is it just adds the foundation of how to do all this. And it actually proves to you that this stuff does work, but you've got to apply the things and take good notes, and we make a recording of each of the meetings for you so you can review it so you don't miss anything. And if you actually get off your butt and implement it, you're gonna get a 100 times plus return on your investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we see that over and over again, right, Master Smith? I mean, how many times do we have members that, thought about or put off actually working with us, and then finally pulled the trigger, and then after being with us for not even that long of a time, double, quadrupled, or more their numbers in net profit, in gross, and realized how much money they had left on the table by not pulling the trigger sooner, right? And wish they had. So I think it's I always am sad to see a missed opportunity for any of the school owners that don't take advantage of some of the training that we're able to offer.
Yeah, and any questions at all, pump them in there about this or about anything else we've covered. We have 10 or 15 minutes before we have to go into another live meeting, so we'd love to answer any of those questions. I did post in the chat here the direct link to that program, but it's martialartswealth.com/Karate Kid, and also I had posted Bob's number. And again, if you need to and want to, you're certainly welcome to break it up into a couple payments or one thing or another if you need to. If you do need to do that, it's a good sign that you need to be in the program, I might add. But feel free to do that. Bob, I believe the website will let them break it up into a couple payments, or they can give you a call and do that as well.
Yes, sir. And I'm happy to work with them. And and I put my phone number up there. I can also text out, and I believe Merrick's going to try to text out also the link to the program. And but give me a call. Looking forward to helping anybody.
Yeah, but get registered for that. It starts this coming Wednesday. Between now and Wednesday, we'll get you all of those bonus items. You can have them to keep you busy over the weekend. We'll admit you into the discussion forum. You'll have access to our meeting yesterday, which again, Master Smith, we spent about 30 minutes or 45 minutes on the A to Z implementation with the Karate Kid movie. I posted the guidelines, scripts, and so forth on the movie promotions methodologies in the group yesterday. But the recording of that is immediately available. The scripts and everything is immediately available, and we'll also get you all the artwork that ties into that as well. But again, some of the questions that I had people ask me ahead of time were, one is, okay, I've done live event booths before and I didn't get that to work. Is that the only thing that you guys are teaching? And of course, the answer is no. We're doing all types of different, as we've talked about, how to create publicity, how to do effective grassroots marketing and guerrilla marketing, how to do effective internal referral systems, and to really gin that up, how to do effective social media marketing, how to do effective online marketing. The other side of the question, though, is most people that I've seen who have tried doing, say, maybe they did a booth in the Karate Kid, Master Smiths, maybe like the school that was actually showed up at the same time you were there at the theater last time around. Most people who do a booth don't do it right. They don't understand how to draw traffic to the booth. They don't understand how to generate leads, and they don't understand how to generate appointments, and they don't have the systems in place to make sure those appointments show up in their school. So what we methodically do is teach the scripting, the process, the look and feel, and the conversion process for each of those. So if you are at the theater, you get people traffic to the booth. You're not sitting behind it waiting for people. You made that note before, Master Smith, where you're getting them to give you the lead flow, but we're making appointments on the spot rather than trying to chase them down afterwards. But then the methodology of what happens then to make sure that they have that the school has a process to get them to show up to the school and convert to a lead, then to or to a introductory class, and then to an appointment. So that was one question that I had asked. The other question, and we talked about this yesterday as well. Ms. Smith, I get a couple people. You were talking to somebody recently, said, "Well, the only thing you try to get people to do is raise your prices," and what we hear all the time is, "Well, that can't be done in my area. I'm in Arkansas. I'm in Mississippi. I'm in Canada, whatever it might be." And the reality is, what we're trying to teach people to do is create higher quality students, keep them longer, create a visualization and goal setting process for their students so they really commit to long-term follow-up, and teach effective introductory enrollment processes, enrollment renewal processes, so the systems are in good shape, create a flood of introductory traffic, improve the quality of the classroom from a standpoint of character development and personal development, and then look at program structure so that we get away from nickel and diming people to death, get away from all kinds of different fees and charges and so forth, make it clean and simple, and then improve the lifetime value of a student and the average revenue per student in such a way that not only they're thrilled, but they're, dragging their friends down and sharing, positive word of mouth through the community. And it doesn't matter, again, whether that's in a small town like Colby in Mankato, Minnesota, or whether you're in a big city like New York or LA. All of these things work in exactly the same way, including, in Canada, Dubai, um, um, Germany, UK, Australia, New Zealand. We can go through the list, but those things work in a bunch of ways. Bob, what are
Yeah.
some of the other questions that you were asked ahead of this?
Facebook is interesting. I talk with a lot of school owners that are doing or say they're doing Facebook marketing,
Mhm.
averaging anywhere from 5, maybe on a good month, 20 leads, through Facebook. But primarily what I find is that it's being done organically, not by a service. And typically our guys are what, sir, averaging 100-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
minimum is what we want everybody to get. And
Yeah.
we teach them how to do enough marketing and be able to do that.
Yeah.
And on the price point, for a lot of people, that's a very touchy subject. But you don't understand in my area, that everybody has an excuse, but we teach you how to overcome all that and let you not mess with your current students, but how to implement it step by step so you can bring in your student value will go up as you raise your prices, but you can't just raise the prices out of the blue without understanding all of the steps that require to do that. And that by itself, learning how to do that, because most of these our current martial arts schools are still charging what we were charging back in the 70s. In the 70s we were charging 150 a month. In
Yeah.
1970s, all through that, and every other thing in this country has gone up. I mean, look at cars now. You can't. Cars are 70, 80,000. They used to be $4,000. You could get a Corvette.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
Corvette's over 100.
Another
Yeah.
commonality too is they compare themselves to the other local martial arts schools around them, and try to market or compete against them instead of them being the premium service in their area. So they adjust their pricing according to what the other school owners are charging.
Yeah, that's the biggest mistake.
But on the 6-week program specifically,
Mhm.
and again, yesterday, um, we'll be starting next Wednesday for everybody in the group. But what we have covered thoroughly in the past, and we'll cover in this more in depth, tied to the movie, is how to get in the theater, how to tie directly with the movie and with the theater, how to create the in theater presence. A lot of people are just saying, well, the theaters in my area won't let me do it, but then they just don't know the right mechanism and who to talk to and how to go about it. We'll be talking about how to maximize the traffic going to the theater, the local shopping mall or whatever it might be. We'll be talking about how to tie the social media, the online marketing, et cetera, into that, how to tie the grassroots and guerrilla marketing into that, how to tie working with local elementary schools before they get out for the summer, how to get your foot in the door there and really generate a ton of traffic from the local elementary schools, daycares, and then coming up with the summer camps and so forth. All of the live event marketing opportunities that are available during the summer, and showing you how to set that up right now. And we'll be going through the A's to Z's of how to do Facebook marketing well. Mr. Dunn, you talked about one of the things. What I find with most of the agencies is they tend to be a one-trick pony. Is they have one or two good ad sets, and so people who are really happy with them for a month or two, and then they're not, and then they jump over to somebody else. We've solved that problem, and are really good at tuning and tweaking and working. And we do have an agency we work with if people want to work with them, but we really focus on developing the ads that they're going to use, looking at the results, helping to tweak and tune and make sure the lead flow and the cost per lead is good. And we'll be talking about what it takes to convert, get seen on Google, convert on Google, and you definitely want to be there as the marketing for this one ramps up and creates interest. You'll have a surge of interest for people looking for things to do for their kids for the summer, for themselves for the summer, but then the Karate Kid thing will bump it way up as well. So you want to have all those pieces together. And again, we covered a lot of ground today, but we couldn't even scratch the surface really. With the 6-week program, we'll have a chance to fully in depth. And again, we never leave one of the meetings without having a full, every question answered, a full conversation about it. And part of the things we use the discussion forum for is people can prep ahead of time on things that they want to accomplish. And every time we're having a conversation, like if I said, well, we have artwork for this, we post it in there. We have this course for this. We show you how to get access to it. We have a video on this. We'll show you how to get access to it and share that. And probably more importantly is you're just getting feedback from people who are very high performing schools and hearing what's really working in the market today, right now.
That's a high value point. I mean, curbing that learning point where I talk to school owners that spend thousands and thousands of dollars, but just did it incorrectly, whatever it was, whether it was a direct mail piece, whatever they sent out, or whether it was a live event, a booth, regardless, having that learning curve can actually save you thousands of dollars and obviously help you with your growth.
Yeah. Chris had a question about some of the bonuses for today's webinar. And Chris, absolutely. All of the bonuses and in fact, a ton of free material, including 3 of my books, are all available for you. They're in martialartswealth.com/free book. Some of the Karate Kid report and bonuses and so forth haven't been updated in there yet. Merrick, our support person, is in the process of doing that now. So go and check in there, get all the material that's available in there, and then we'll make sure that any of the other things that haven't yet been posted in there do get posted so that you'll have that. Frankly, if I were to start, it wouldn't be in that particular. I would start with the 6 Simple Steps to Add 100 Students book. I think you'll find it extremely valuable, and then use that as a jumping off point for the 6-week program. But yeah, good question, Chris. Sorry I didn't mention that before. But all of those bonuses, you should have gotten an email with that access anyway. We know how flaky email is. But any and everything promised will be in martialartswealth.com/free book. And what we know is in there is 3 books, a couple of other reports, and all the Karate Kid material either is in there today or will be in there shortly. Merrick is updating that as we speak. Any other questions before we call it a day? No? Well, that's easy enough. Again, go to martialartswealth.com/Karate Kid, or Bob, your phone number is 720-256-0208. It's $9.97, but you can split that up into 2 or 3 pieces if you need. And it's a very low commitment, low threshold way. And again, as far as ROI, all you need is 1 student, but our big promise is we're going to give you everything you need to add 100 students in the next 2 months. So, it's 1 student pays for your investment multiple times over. And if you truly hit the ground running and implemented this stuff, you've got everything you need to add 100 students. So that's $1 million in return right there. Okay, going once, going twice. Any other questions? Otherwise, I hope to see everybody next Wednesday for our live meeting. It's at 2 Eastern, noon Mountain, 11 Pacific. And again, we go anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. It's not in a webinar form like this. It's in a completely open, interactive environment where you can ask any and all questions that you want to ask. And again, here's the access point for getting registered for that 6-week program. And it will get you started today with access to all of the materials. And then the first interactive live Zoom meeting will be on next Wednesday. So call Bob, go to the website, QR code to the website, and get registered. And I look forward to working with you starting next Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I'll see you guys back in the other room in 4 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.